was barefoot, holding a metal hand mixer in one hand and a crying toddler in the other when I realized no one was coming. Not the parents. Not the neighbors. Not a single damn soul. The lights were out. The rain was pounding like war drums on the roof. Something or someone was moving around upstairs. And the front door lock? It had been tampered with. I could feel it in my bones. We weren't alone anymore. My heart jackhammered in my chest as I crouched behind the living room sofa. I'd grabbed the mixer from the kitchen during the blackout because it was the only thing even remotely heavy within reach, and frankly, I didn't care how absurd I looked. The beaters still had streaks of dried cookie dough from earlier, which in a less terrifying moment might have been funny. But right now, the cold steel felt like my last bit of control in a situation unraveling fast. The 4 kids huddled close in front of me like dominoes ready to fall. The twins, Lily and Lucas, clung to each other beneath a tangled fleece throw. Sophia held her broken toy truck with both hands, trembling. Mia, the oldest, was staring straight up at the ceiling vent above us, her face drained of all color. "They're in the attic," she whispered. Her voice was so quiet, I almost didn't catch it. "What did you say?" I whispered back. She turned slowly. Her eyes didn't blink. I saw them watching us, through the vent. My stomach dropped. I tightened my grip on the mixer. That's when the hallway light, which had been flickering on and off all evening, sputtered back to life for just a heartbeat, and in that momentary glow I saw them. Footprints. Clear, muddy footprints, leading from the sliding back door to the hallway. I had locked that door hours ago. I don't know how I kept my face calm for the kids. I don't know how I didn't scream. But something primal in me, some untapped part of my survival instincts, kicked in. I handed Sophia a juice pouch with a shaking hand. "Sip this slowly, sweetheart." My voice didn't even sound like mine. I turned to the others. "No one moves unless I say so. Understand?" They nodded silently, eyes wide and glistening. As I crouched back down, I asked myself again, how the hell did we get here? It all began with a favor. 3 years ago, I moved into this neighborhood with my sister to help raise my niece after my brother and his wife died in a car crash. I was the new girl on the block. Quiet. Trying to heal. I baked cookies to cope, volunteered at the local library, and said yes a little too often when people asked for help. I guess they saw me as available. The first time it happened, Mrs. Garcia showed up at my door in a panic. Her sitter bailed, she had a dentist appointment, and she'd heard I was great with kids. I said yes without hesitation. That one-time favor turned into a habit. Word spread. Soon I was the designated go-to. Birthday parties, after-school emergencies, surprise date nights, just a quick grocery run, they all came knocking. At first, I didn't mind. The kids were sweet. The moms were grateful. And it felt nice to be needed. But over time, things shifted. The thank yous became texts sent late and half-hearted. The favors became expectations. They stopped asking, they just told me when they were dropping the kids off. They'd leave without car seats or emergency contacts. One mom left a toddler with a 103-degree fever. Another didn't return until 2 a.m. without warning. Still, I said nothing. I convinced myself they appreciated me in their own way. That community meant being there, even when it wasn't easy. But tonight shattered all of that. The storm had rolled in just after dinner. The kids and I had made cookies earlier, the mess still half on the counter. I put on an animated movie, passed out popcorn, built a blanket fort. The thunder rumbled like distant gunfire. Lightning strobed the sky. "Don't worry," I told them, tucking Lucas into the couch cushions. "Storms are just the clouds arguing." They giggled. They trusted me. That meant everything. By 9 p.m., the parents were already late. By 9:30, the storm had knocked out the power. By 10 o'clock, my phone lost service. By 10:15, I saw that note. It was on the coffee table, where I know I hadn't left anything. A square piece of white paper, wrinkled, almost damp. Written in slanted, childlike letters. "You watch now." At first, I thought maybe Mia wrote it. She liked spooky games, sometimes scribbled little notes during hide and seek. But when I showed it to her, her hands began to tremble. I didn't write that, she said. I swear. Then the power flickered, and we heard the first creak above us. The attic. I checked all the doors and windows again. I was meticulous. The sliding glass door latch had been jimmied, scratched at the base like someone had used a tool on it. The side window by the kitchen sink? Unlatched. I was losing control of the perimeter. I ran to the pantry, grabbed the old mixer. It was heavy, metallic, better than nothing. I stuffed extra batteries and my phone into my hoodie pocket and hustled back to the kids. My plan was simple. Keep them quiet, keep them close, wait for the parents. They were supposed to be back by 10. By 11, I was starting to shake. I tried calling. No answer. Every message bounced. I checked the house phone. Dead. Of course. And then, we heard the second sound. This time it was closer. The ceiling vent above us rattled. Something was shifting in the crawl space. The twins clutched each other, their little bodies trembling under the blanket. Sophia was whimpering, whispering my name. Mia grabbed my hand. Then came the loudest noise yet, a thump directly above us, like someone dropping to their knees in the attic. That's when I knew. Someone had been inside this house long before I realized it. The worst part? I had no one to call. No one I could count on. I had watched all of their kids for free. For years. I was the good neighbor, the helper, the angel, the one they called when they needed someone in a pinch. And yet, here I was. Alone. In the dark. In a house with intruders. Not a single car in the driveway. Not a single message saying, "Hey, are you okay?" Not a knock at the door. Not even a missed call. They'd forgotten me. Or worse, they never really saw me at all. Then I heard it. A whisper. From upstairs. Low. Slow. Like someone reciting a lullaby in reverse. I stood, placed Sophia on the couch, and motioned for the others to stay down. The mixer in my hand vibrated from my grip. I moved to the staircase, step by step, flashlight held up. Halfway up the stairs, I paused. From the top of the landing, just barely visible in the flashlight beam. A wet footprint. Not mine. Not a child's. Too large. Too fresh. I backed away, breath caught in my throat. I didn't care if it was a squatter, a prankster, or something unexplainable. I was done being the responsible one tonight. I turned and sprinted back to the kids. Pulled the couch in front of the stairs. Locked the front door again. Secured the back. Checked every lock. Every latch. I gathered the kids under the blanket fort and said, "Everything's okay." I lied. Because in that moment, holding them tight with a fading flashlight and a mixer that still smelled like cookie dough, I knew something with horrifying clarity. This was the night no one came for me. This was the night I stopped saving everyone else. And above us, from the attic, the whisper continued. The whispering didn't stop. It slithered through the vents above us like wind through cracked glass, just beyond language, just enough to chill your bones. I clutched the kids tighter beneath the makeshift blanket fort. The storm was no longer the threat, it was the cover. Whatever was in this house with us, it was patient. It had waited for the dark. And it wasn't done yet. I kept the mixer close, gripped like a weapon, though my hand had gone numb from holding it so long. My flashlight flickered again, battery wheezing, and I turned it off to conserve what I could. The darkness swallowed us whole. I felt the rise and fall of the kids breathing around me, their fear thick in the air. And still, no one came. No headlights in the driveway. No familiar knock at the door. No apology text from a parent explaining the delay. My mind kept circling one truth. They left me. The clock on the wall blinked mockingly in the dark, 12:07 a.m. 2 hours past the last be back by 10 promise. Even if they'd gotten caught in the storm, someone should have checked in by now. I laid on the floor beside the kids, Mia closest to me. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. "You okay?" I whispered. She didn't answer. "Mia?" Then she turned to me, eyes wide and glassy. "Do you think it's the Watcher?" My blood chilled. "The what?" "The Watcher," she said. "The one who leaves the notes." I sat up slowly. "What do you mean leaves the notes?" She blinked at me. "I thought you knew. He watches the houses on our street. Mom said he's just a story, but kids talk." Some say he leaves notes when he wants something, when he's ready to remind people they're being watched. I was stunned into silence. Mia, I said carefully, have you seen a note like the one earlier? She nodded once. Sophia's house. Last month. We found one stuck inside her dollhouse. It just said, still watching. Her mom threw it out. Did she tell anyone? She told Mrs. Garcia. I think. I felt dizzy. All this time, I thought the note was a prank. Or a one-off. But this wasn't new. This was ongoing. And yet, no one said anything? Why hadn't they told me? I gripped the edge of the sofa, trying to process it. Then a sound shattered my thoughts, the doorbell. One single chime. No knock. No voice calling out. Just one high, cold ding. I jumped to my feet, nearly tripping over Sophia. She stirred, but didn't wake. I looked toward the front door. The porch light, flickering dimly, showed the shadow of a figure motionless, right in front of the glass. Too tall for a child. Too still for comfort. I crept forward, flashlight ready, mixer raised. The figure didn't move. I edged to the peephole. Looked. It was a woman. She wore a raincoat, the hood pulled low, dripping water onto the mat. Her face hidden. But then she spoke. I couldn't hear it clearly, but her lips moved. I flicked the deadbolt open, but left the chain latched. Who are you? I called through the door. She leaned closer. I heard the children crying, she said softly. I wanted to check. Something about her voice set every nerve on edge. It was calm. Too calm. Like she already knew exactly what was happening inside. Who told you? I demanded. Everyone knows you watch them, she said, smiling. Everyone knows you're the one who never says no. My stomach dropped. My fingers tightened around the mixer. She looked at me through the glass. But the real question is, who's watching you? I stepped back. My voice cracked. I think you need to leave. She nodded slowly. Then she turned, walked off the porch, and disappeared into the night. No umbrella, no car waiting. I slammed the door shut and locked it. I ran to the window. She was gone. Gone. Back in the living room, I tried to keep it together. The kids needed calm. I passed out granola bars, opened juice boxes with shaky fingers. The house felt colder now. Not from the storm, from knowing something was wrong, and I wasn't crazy anymore. I grabbed the backup phone from the drawer. No signal. I wrote down everything that had happened in a notebook. The footprints, the attic noises, the note, the woman at the door. I didn't want to forget a detail. I didn't trust myself not to miss something important. Then I made the rounds. Checked every lock, every door, every window. And when I got to the attic stairs, I froze. The door was open. Not cracked. Not nudged. Fully open. I swallowed hard. The air was icy up there, cold rushing down like breath. I raised my flashlight, flicked it on again. Its battery hissed weak, but the beam held. I climbed slowly. The attic stairs groaned with each step. Up top, everything looked wrong. Boxes moved. Furniture shifted. There were empty spaces where things had once been. And in the middle of the attic? A single open notebook. I approached it like it might explode. I knelt, flipped it toward me. Inside, pages and pages of writing. But not normal writing, names. Dates. Times. I scanned it. My name was on the first page. Brielle. Friday, 6:32 p.m. She made popcorn. My throat went dry. It continued. Brielle. 7:15 p.m. She locked the back door. 8:02 p.m. The children are giggling. She watches. She listens. She protects. And then, 9:23 p.m. She's alone. The parents won't come. I dropped the notebook. My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped the flashlight too. Someone had been documenting me. Watching me. Writing down my every move. I backed away. As I turned to flee, I caught sight of something out of the corner of my eye, movement behind a stack of boxes. I didn't stay to find out what it was. I ran. Back downstairs, I locked the attic door, wedged a chair under the knob. I wrapped the kids in blankets and told them to sleep, though I knew I wouldn't. I sat in the middle of the room, metal mixer in my lap like a sword. I felt it in my bones. Tonight was about more than a storm. More than a break-in. This was punishment. For giving too much. For always saying yes. For watching everyone else's kids, and never having anyone watch me. And somewhere in the shadows, I knew someone was waiting. Not to hurt me, but to make a point. You watch now. Now you learn what it's like to be forgotten. By 1:02 a.m., I was no longer waiting for help. I had accepted the truth. I was on my own. The kids had drifted into a shaky sleep on the floor, tucked into blankets, limbs tangled like vines. I sat just beyond them, knees pulled to my chest, the metal hand mixer resting in my lap like a makeshift baton. My flashlight, my last source of comfort, was now just a fading flicker with a stubborn battery warning blinking in Morse code rhythm. But I wouldn't sleep, because the watcher was still here. And they knew everything. The notebook I found in the attic wasn't a fluke. It wasn't just about me, it was about all of us. I'd flipped through more of it before fleeing the attic, and the entries went back months. Every kid I'd ever babysat. Every quick favor the parents asked for. Every time I stayed late. Every time I didn't say no. There were even pages describing them. The parents. Mrs. Thompson, 6:15 p.m. She leaves without saying goodbye. She won't return on time. She never does. Mr. Garcia, 8:42 p.m. He drinks alone in the garage. Doesn't text back. She covers for him. Mrs. Henderson, 10:01 p.m. She tells Brielle she'll be back by 10. She lies. Again. And then, sandwiched between them. Brielle, 10:31 p.m. Still watching. Still hoping. Still alone. The watcher wasn't just observing. They were judging. I sat in the dark, trying to understand what this meant. Was it a prank? Was someone trying to teach me a twisted lesson about boundaries? Or was this deeper, something broken in the foundation of this neighborhood I'd tried so hard to belong to? And worse, had they all known? Because if they knew about the notes, the attic, the watcher, and still left me here, that wasn't forgetfulness. That was betrayal. Suddenly, I heard a new sound. The side gate. Clink. Clink. The latch lifting. Slowly. Deliberately. I jumped to my feet, heart hammering, and crossed to the front window, peeking through the curtain slit. Nothing. I crept toward the kitchen, stepped into the pantry, and pressed my ear to the back wall. There it was again, scraping footsteps just beyond the hedges. Then silence. I flicked my flashlight on and off again, hoping for even a glimpse. I got one. For a split second, a face. Peeking through the window. Smiling. It was her again. The woman in the raincoat. The one who had vanished hours ago. Only this time, she wasn't alone. A second figure stood behind her. Male, maybe. Wearing dark clothing. His face obscured. But he was holding something in his hand. A piece of paper. He lifted it, pressed it to the glass. Another note. Then both figures were gone, vanished like smoke into the storm-soaked yard. I darted forward, unlocked the door, yanked it open, and was met with nothing but cold air and swirling leaves. The paper was still stuck to the window. I pulled it down. This one was neater. More deliberate. You were never invisible. You were never safe. My knees nearly buckled. Not because I felt targeted, but because I realized I wasn't the first. I dug out the attic notebook again, flipping to the back where the pages grew more frantic. The handwriting more erratic. There were other names. Ones I didn't recognize. Stephanie, watched 2017. Lori, watched 2019. Kendall, watched 2020. Then scrawled in red ink. They never listened. They never changed. So we made them remember. I suddenly felt sick. What had happened to these people? Had someone been tormenting sitters in this neighborhood for years? I knew what I had to do. I crept upstairs one more time, mixer in hand, and re-entered the attic. This time, I didn't hesitate. I opened the trapdoor at the back, the one I'd been too scared to investigate earlier. It led to a crawl space, shallow but wide enough to crawl through. I inched inside. My flashlight flickered across photographs pinned to the wall. Children. Parents. Me. I saw a photo of myself carrying Lucas to the car last fall. Another of me reading to the kids on the porch. And another. Me crying in my car the night no one showed up to pick their kids up until 1 a.m. I never told anyone about that. How long had they been watching me? A creak echoed behind me. I spun, hard in my throat, just in time to see a figure dart past the opening. "Who's there?" I shouted. "Show yourself." No response. I backed out fast, nearly tumbling down the attic stairs. When I hit the landing, I saw another note tucked under the attic door hinge. This one said, "Stop waiting. Start remembering. This is what they did to you." I returned to the living room, shaking, the kids still asleep, though Mia stirred when I sat down. She looked up at me. "What did they say this time?" she asked. I blinked. "What?" She sat up straighter. "The Watcher. Did they leave a note?" I hesitated. "Mia, how long have you known about this?" She didn't answer right away. Then, a while. "Mia." She met my eyes. "My mom told me not to talk about it. That it wasn't real. But I think she was scared too. One time, she came in from the porch, pale. Said someone was standing at the edge of our yard, just watching the house. She made us sleep downstairs that night. Why didn't she tell anyone?" Mia shrugged. "People around here don't talk about the Watcher. They just pretend he's not real. Because if you say it out loud, it means you saw him. And if you saw him, he knows your name." My breath caught. Because that meant one thing. They saw me. They named me. Documented me. Watched me more than any of the others. Which meant they were planning something bigger. I sat there, hands shaking, as a thought crawled into my head like a spider. What if this wasn't about revenge? What if this was a warning? What if the Watcher wasn't just punishing people like me who gave too much, who were taken for granted? What if they were trying to wake me up? To make me stop letting people use me? To make me see what this neighborhood really was? Because the worst betrayal wasn't the Watcher. It was the people who said they cared and never showed up. At 2:13 a.m., I stopped being afraid. Not because the fear was gone, but because it had calcified into rage. I wasn't just scared anymore. I was furious. Furious at the parents who ghosted me when I begged for help. Furious at the fake smiles. Furious at the tight-lipped secrets this neighborhood kept like they were HOA rules. Furious that I gave so much and when I needed something, all I got was silence. And now? I had someone watching me from my own attic, leaving notes on my windows, collecting photographs like they were trophies. No, I wasn't going to be a victim in someone else's story. I was going to end this. The house was silent. The kids were asleep again, Mia watching me quietly, almost like she knew what I was about to do. I stood, grabbed the mixer again, replaced the flashlight battery, and headed for the attic one final time. This time, I wasn't looking for notes. I was looking for answers. The crawl space behind the attic had one more door, hidden behind insulation panels. I hadn't seen it earlier, but now I knew what I was looking for. I pulled the panel back. The hinges screamed quietly as it opened. Behind it was a narrow, makeshift corridor, a weird in-between space between two houses. I recognized the layout instantly. It led directly to the Hendersons' house. I froze. What the hell? I slipped into the passage, heart pounding. The walls were bare drywall, rough and unfinished. But there were footprints in the dust. Large ones. Adult. At the end of the tunnel, another door. I pressed my ear to it. Silence. I opened it slowly and found myself standing in a storage room behind the Hendersons' garage. Boxes stacked neatly. Children's art taped to the wall. One box labeled Halloween Decor, 2023. And on a corkboard, pinned with surgical precision, more photos. Of me, of the kids, of the neighborhood. Each one labeled with a date and time. Brielle, 9:42 p.m. She stays late again. Mia, 6:05 p.m. draws another picture of the Watcher. Lucas, 4:55 p.m. says he wants Brielle to be his mom. I felt sick. Not just because someone had crossed every boundary imaginable, but because this wasn't just a secret space. This was an operation. And someone I trusted, maybe even more than one of them, was behind it. I didn't take the tunnel back. I walked right out the Hendersons' front door and crossed the street. The sky was clearing now. Storm clouds finally dispersing. But I was a storm of my own. My pulse was pure lightning. I stepped onto my own porch and froze. There was a figure waiting for me. Raincoat. Hood up. Standing under the eaves like she'd always belonged there. I raised the flashlight. I breathed. The watcher didn't move. You've been following me, I said, stepping closer. Why? She tilted her head. Because you don't hear yourself scream anymore. What? You think being used is kindness. You think being abandoned is normal. You think surviving in silence is something noble. It's not. I felt my throat tighten. You needed to see what they really are. So I showed you. I gripped the flashlight tighter. Are you saying you're doing this for me? I'm saying, she said calmly, you left the door open. I blinked. You mean literally? No, she said. The one that matters. The rage in me reached a breaking point. I stepped forward, so close I could see her mouth beneath the hood. I didn't ask for this, I hissed. I asked for help. I asked for a little support. And no one came. Not once. Not ever. Her smile was slow. Exactly. She handed me something, a folder. Thick. Heavy. Inside, more documents, more photos. Some dated years ago. Other sitters. Other women like me. Burned out. Used. Forgotten. And then clippings. One from 2018, local babysitter found after missing 2 days. Trauma reported but no charges filed. Another from 2020, teen sitter hospitalized, parents didn't know she needed help. Each one familiar. Too familiar. Because it was a pattern. And I had been next. She turned to go. I grabbed her arm. What are you? I demanded. She paused. Then looked at me. I'm what happens when girls like you stop pretending to be okay. I watched her walk into the darkness. I didn't follow. I returned to the house, locked every door, every window, checked every room. The kids still asleep. Mia rolled over and mumbled, she told you, didn't she? I knelt next to her. You knew this would happen? She said if you didn't leave, she'd have to make you see. See what? Mia looked up at me, eyes full of something ancient. That they never loved you the way you loved their kids. I sat on the floor for the rest of the night. The sun began to rise through the curtains at 6:41 a.m. I'd survived. But I wasn't the same girl who answered the door for free babysitting 3 years ago. Something had cracked. Something had sharpened. And now I was watching them. By 7:03 a.m., the sun was up, but the cold hadn't lifted. The living room looked deceptively normal. Blankets in a heap. Empty juice boxes scattered. The smell of burnt popcorn still lingered in the air. The kids stirred under the fort we built, sleepy-eyed and blissfully unaware of the war that had taken place around them. I sat there, knees pulled to my chest, staring at the folder the watcher had given me. My hands were still trembling. Not with fear anymore, but with the bitter, scalding realization that everything I thought I knew, everyone I thought I could count on, had failed me. I wasn't just forgotten. I was disposable. And the thing about being disposable is that people only notice when you're missing, not when you're falling apart. At 7:19 a.m., I got the first text. Mrs. Garcia. Hey, just checking in. Did everything go okay last night? Sorry again, I fell asleep. Can we grab the kids around 9? Then, Mrs. Henderson. Power went out at the restaurant. We couldn't get out of the parking garage. Hope it wasn't too rough. Did Mia behave? I stared at the screen like it was written in a foreign language. No apologies. No panic. Not even a sliver of guilt. They didn't know. Or worse, they didn't care. I didn't reply. Not yet. I stood up, walked upstairs, checked the attic one last time. The crawl space was still open. The tunnel still connected to the Hendersons' house. I took one photo. Just one. Then I closed it. Sealed it shut with duct tape and a chair braced against it. I was done watching. Done being watched. By 8:15 a.m., the cars started pulling in. The parents came up the walkway like nothing had happened. Mrs. Thompson knocked cheerily. How were they? Hope they didn't eat too much sugar. Mr. Garcia held out a travel mug. I brought you coffee. You're a lifesaver. I took the coffee, set it on the porch rail. Didn't say thank you. One by one, they collected their kids, still in pajamas, sleepy but safe. I smiled for the children, hugged the twins, gave Sophia her toy truck, now patched with duct tape. Mia looked back at me with eyes that understood too much for her age. I touched her shoulder gently. "You're brave," I whispered. She nodded. "So are you." Mrs. Henderson lingered. "We really do appreciate you," she said. "I hope you know that." I stared at her, then said calmly, "When you told me you'd be back by 10. I waited. For 3 hours. She blinked, awkward. "Oh, yeah. It just got crazy. I found muddy footprints in your attic." That shut her up. "What?" she said, breathless. "There's a tunnel. Between your house and here. Someone's been watching this neighborhood for years. Leaving notes. Tracking us." She shook her head, a fake smile plastered to her face. "That's not possible." I have pictures," I said. "And I'm giving them to the police." She didn't ask to see them. She didn't ask who they were. She just said, "Okay." Because deep down, she already knew. At 10 a.m., I made my report. I walked into the police station with the folder, the photos, the notebook from the attic. They listened, took my statement, promised to investigate thoroughly. But their eyes said it all. A babysitter. No real harm done. Just spooky stories in a nice neighborhood. I walked out of that station knowing full well they wouldn't do anything. So I did. I printed the notes, the names, the list of past sitters who had suffered. I left copies in every mailbox on my block. I posted screenshots on the community board. I sent an email to the HOA with one sentence in the subject line. What happens when no one watches the watcher? The neighborhood reacted exactly how I expected. Some denied it. Some panicked. Some called me dramatic. But something changed. People started locking their doors tighter. Some hired actual babysitters, paid ones. A few moved. But most of all, they stopped calling me. And I was okay with that. A week later, I found one final note taped to my back door. Small. Folded. I opened it with shaking fingers. Inside, in that same deliberate handwriting. "You saw them. They saw you. Now they'll never forget." No signature. No threat. Just a conclusion. That night, I sat on my porch, drinking the same coffee Mr. Garcia had handed me, now cold, long forgotten. I looked out over the quiet houses, the manicured lawns, the perfect lives. And I smiled. Because now, I don't watch anymore. Now, they watch themselves.